Hello, Eve here, announcer for the Dark Lord. Whoops, Rosie's gonna laugh at that one. I mean James Ray, the Phantom Texter. He's written a unique piece of A New Sit Down. In this, he's a guest on a very different kind of podcast. I will go as far as to say the podcaster had a devious arterial motive in inviting him. He quickly found out that you can't outsmart someone who brought you into existence with his very own imagination. That's why none of us ladies here, with the exception of maybe me, would even try it. Again, the conversation is generated by Google's Notebook Deep Dive. It's not controlled by James, just everything else in the universe. Be well. Ta-ta.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're tackling something, really unusual.
Definitely going off the beaten path with this one.
Yeah, we're heading straight into a source that just completely blurs the lines. Between the author, the character, even reality itself.
It's less like reading fiction and more like observing this incredibly strange, live, psychological event.
Performed by the creator on himself. That's the wild part.
Exactly. So the source material we're digging into comes from excerpts of A New Sit Down by James Ray, the Phantom Texter. It was published October 2025.
And the format itself is key, right?
Absolutely crucial. It's presented as a transcript of a YouTube podcast. So it's not just a story about a character.
No.
It's presented as the creator, James Ray, actually talking to his character, Rasputin Jenkins. And Jenkins is supposedly the host of this YouTube show.
So the fourth wall isn't just broken, it's like it was never even there.
Pretty much. It's immediate, it's theatrical, very meta.
Okay, so our mission for this deep dive then, we've got, I think, 3 main goals.
Yeah.
First, we really need to unpack this Phantom Texter's own philosophy, his stated method for how he creates these characters.
Then second, we need to understand the role of this specific character, Rasputin Jenkins, this dark manifestation. He sounds intense.
He does. And finally, there's this context that gets revealed later in their conversation. It really raises the stakes, doesn't it?
Oh, it shifts everything from like an intellectual puzzle to something genuinely dangerous.
And the setup itself is just dripping with atmosphere.
Totally. The texter himself says the timing is perfect for Halloween. You've got James Ray, the supposed creator, the Phantom Texter.
Calls himself the puppet master almost.
Well, he sort of accepts the term even if he finds it harsh, and he's sitting down with his own creation, Rasputin Jenkins.
Who's described how?
As a sinister-looking fellow.
Okay.
Explicitly the manifestation of the author's darker side, his shadows.
So right away you're asking, okay, who's actually in control here? Who's running this conversation? All right, let's get into the why. Because the texters seems very aware that people want some dramatic, maybe even simple explanation for why he creates these entities.
Yeah, he anticipates that. He doesn't just give one answer when Jenkins, acting as host, asks him why he does it.
He sort of offers levels of answers, right?
Exactly. He starts with the one he knows people might expect, the sensational one.
The mad artist thing.
Right. He throws out, because I'm crazy and I'm coming for your children. But then he immediately dismisses it. Says it's too simple, too easy for people who just want to label him as crazy.
It's like a performance. Acknowledging the stereotype before brushing it aside.
It's a deliberate misdirection, yeah. Then he moves to what he calls his preferred middle ground answer.
And this one sounds almost boring on the surface.
Kinda, I was bored and I don't have any friends.
But then there's that instruction.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
He insists it has to be delivered with a sinister laugh. He adds, keep them guessing, I always say.
So even the mundane answer is part of the performance.
Absolutely. And think about that for a second. If the reason he creates these really dark, powerful characters is just boredom and absence of friends.
It suggests the creation comes from a place of what? Emptiness.
That's what it implies, doesn't it? Not inspiration, not exploring beauty, but filling a void, which frankly makes the darkness he creates feel even more unsettling. It's generated because he needs to, maybe?
Almost like self-medication through creation.
Or a very personalized form of performance art, yeah. Managing his own loneliness while also playing with how people perceive him.
Okay, so moving past the performance answers, we get to the deeper motivation he talks about, which sounds more psychological.
Right. It seems to be about release. Necessary release. He says something like, I have created so many characters, I've gotten to release my inner demons in so many ways. This is just another one.
releasing inner demons. That
Yeah.
connects directly to this puppet master idea, doesn't it?
It does. Jenkins challenges him on that title, calls it harsh.
But the texter doesn't really deny it.
No, he admits the term may be a bit harsh, but he fully confirms the control. He says he has a hand in your creation and vocalizations. That's pretty clear authorship.
Standard author stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
But his method sounds like it goes beyond just writing.
That's the key point. He says he tries to give them as much personality outside of myself as I can. It's not just about assigning traits on a character sheet.
It's this psychological method he mentions, the multifaceted mind.
Exactly. This is the core of his philosophy as he presents it. He says, instead of trying to suppress the darker parts of his psyche, the disruptive bits.
Which is what most psychological models would suggest, right?
Yeah.
Integration or management.
Right. He claims he does the opposite. He lets his imagination wander, finds these aspects, the darkness, the fear, whatever, and then he assigns them.
Assigns them how?
He assigns them to sides of himself that they best represent. He basically externalizes them, gives them a voice, a form, a character.
So it's not just imagining dialogue for a character.
He claims it's more like releasing a part of himself, an existing fragment, and putting it into a vessel, into a character like Jenkins.
And for Rasputin Jenkins, that assignment is very specific.
Extremely specific. The texter tells him directly, in a lot of ways, you're a manifestation of my darker moments.
Not just a villain, but the container for the creator's own darkness.
Precisely. He's a specialist container for the stuff the texter maybe doesn't want to deal with directly, the uncomfortable impulses, the chaos. By giving it a personality, the texter seems to think he can manage it.
Like outsourcing his internal conflict.
That's a good way to put it. Active creative dissociation, turning internal struggle into external dialogue.
And he connects this internal process directly to how the character actually appears, the physical manifestation.
Yeah, he gives this really visceral example. He talks about walking around his house.
Sounding like Jenkins.
Exactly. Sounding just like you, he says, feeling like the dark shroud of death. And then, boom. The next thing he knows, there's a guest in his studio, Jenkins, who looks exactly like a creature who is the dark shroud of death.
So the thought, the feeling, becomes instantly real in this narrative space.
That's the claim. It's not slow, careful writing. It's immediate manifestation. And for the texter, that's his proof. Proof of his unique control. The character's reality is a direct output of his mental state.
Okay, so the texter lays out this whole framework. I feel dark, therefore you exist and look dark. But that's exactly what Rasputin Jenkins completely rejects, isn't it?
Oh, fiercely. We shift immediately from the creator's explanation to the creation's, well, fury.
This is that classic conflict, the created versus the creator.
Baked right in. Jenkins isn't having any of it. He doesn't want to be just a fragment. His first reaction is just yelling, "Blasphemy, I am unique."
He has to reject it, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, he has no real self, no autonomy.
Exactly. So he counters with this completely different origin story for himself. Not psychological, but mythological almost.
Yeah, his self-description is intense. What does he say?
He uses this grand, dark language. I am a scourge of the dark places. I alone stand awake in the abyss.
Wow. Abyss talk. That's definitely not fragment of James Ray's bad mood talk.
Not at all. He's using theological, almost cosmological horror language to fight back against the psychological explanation. He's trying to make himself eternal, independent of Ray.
And he even claims to have, like, a social life in this dark realm.
He does. This is maybe my favorite part. He claims he gets drinks with the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse.
Seriously?
I sit with the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse at the Tavern of Souls. That's the quote.
Okay, that's quite a claim. It's theatrical, but it serves a purpose for him.
Totally. It's his desperate attempt to build a backstory, a history, a social context that exists entirely outside of James Ray's head, something that predates his creation.
And according to Jenkins, this whole podcast, this sit-down, isn't what the texter thinks it is.
No, from Jenkins' viewpoint, he set this up. He claims he invited the phantom texter onto his show to call you out, to let all that see you know your trickery. He wants the audience that's you listening to see him as independent and see the texter as a fraud.
He's trying to use the format against his own creator.
Exactly. A public debunking. That's his goal.
Now let's talk about Jenkins's look. The text mentions he's a sinister-looking fellow, but there's a specific comparison made.
Right. It says he's a little reminiscent of the Russian Rasputin of history.
And the host name, Rasputin Jenkins, obviously links to that. Why that connection, you think?
Well, think about the historical Rasputin. Known for, dark influence, manipulation, but also incredible resilience. famously hard to kill.
Okay, yeah. Almost mythical survival stories.
So linking this modern manifestation of darkness to that historical figure, it suggests this darkness the texture is grappling with is maybe seen as inherent, persistent, incredibly difficult to get rid of.
The name itself is like Jenkins staking a claim for permanence. You can't easily destroy me.
That's how it reads, yeah. But then the texture immediately undercuts Jenkins' whole dark, powerful vibe by pointing out the immediate setting, the irony of it. The texter notes that he, the creator, is sitting there in a bright setting, wearing bright clothes.
While Jenkins, the supposed host, the master of darkness,
is fully decked out in the dark, sinister look in the studio, embodying the role perfectly.
It's a visual metaphor for the control the texter still has.
Exactly. The texter might contain the darkness, but he's currently choosing to operate from the light. Jenkins, claiming autonomy, is stuck in the costume and set assigned to him. The physical reality reinforces the hierarchy.
But Jenkins doesn't just argue. The conflict gets heated. He starts making threats, doesn't he?
Oh yeah, he escalates quickly. He moves from debating his origin to outright hostility. He vows to take his case to a higher power.
Within his own dark cosmology.
Right. He plans to petition the Dark Lord for justice against this foolish mortal, meaning the texter.
Trying to appeal to an authority above the texter.
It's his last resort, maybe?
Yeah.
An attempt to introduce someone or something into the narrative that even his creator can't control. And his language is chilling.
What does he say?
One plague upon your house is not enough to purge your audacity. He genuinely seems to believe this Dark Lord will deal with you most completely.
So he's basically threatening the texter with supernatural retribution.
He is. And this threat, this appeal to an external power, sets up the texter's next move perfectly. It forces the texter to prove definitively that there is no power higher than him in Jenkins's world.
And this is where things get really, really weird. The texter doesn't just argue back.
No, the philosophical debate is over. This is where the texter demonstrates his control in the most staggering way possible. It's reality manipulation, essentially.
He provides instant proof. How?
Okay, so Jenkins has just threatened to go running to the Dark Lord, right? His ultimate authority figure.
Yeah.
The texter's response, he instantly appears dressed as that very same Dark Lord.
Wait, he just transforms. Or puts on a costume. The text isn't clear, maybe.
The text implies an instantaneous shift in appearance. Whether it's a literal transformation or just an impossibly quick change, the effect on Jenkins is the same. It's the ultimate power move.
Like saying, you want to talk to God? Fine, I am God. At least in your world.
Precisely. He demonstrates absolute dominance by becoming the highest power in Jenkins's own belief system.
It's not just a costume change then, it's messing with the character's whole understanding of his reality.
Totally. He's showing that all the rules of Jenkins's world, the Abyss, the Horsemen, the Dark Lord, they're all just constructs created and controlled by the author. There's no outside help Jenkins can call on.
And Jenkins's reaction. Does he buy it?
Oh, it shatters him. All that pride, that fierce denial, it just collapses into pure terror. He cries out, "Lords of dark and despair, my lord, it cannot be you."
He recognizes the figure then?
He does, and then pleads, "Take that visage away, vile deceiver." His entire foundation, his belief in this external power he served, it just evaporates in that moment.
Because the deceiver is the god he was appealing to.
Exactly. And the texter uses that moment of complete breakdown to drive home the point about where Jenkins comes from.
What does he say then?
He confirms, "I am all of you, from the prettiest, the youngest, and even such as yourself, the darkest."
So Jenkins isn't even unique in his darkness. He's just one end of a spectrum of creations.
Right. It completely undermines his claim to being special or unique. He's just another character assigned a role.
But the texter doesn't stop there, does he? He goes for an even more personal proof.
Yeah, this is almost cruel in a way. He moves from cosmic control to intimate personal knowledge, the memory test.
This is to prove their histories are linked. Or rather, that Jenkins's history is the texter's history.
Right. Jenkins makes one last stand. He tries to argue for his own separate past. He says, if I'm just part of your head, how could I have my own memories?
He gives examples.
Yeah, he says, I was born in New York City, and then he throws down the gauntlet with a really personal detail. And my first love's name started with an A.
Ooh, that's specific.
Very. He challenges the texter directly. If we are but parts of you, then what would her name be? He's betting the texter can't know that intimate detail.
And the texter.
He pauses, lets it hang there for a second, probably, then delivers the final blow. He doesn't guess. He knows. That would be Abby.
Oh, man.
And then, just to rub it in, the text notes the required sinister laugh follows.
That's devastating for Jenkins' whole argument. The first love's name.
It's the definitive proof, isn't it? It shows that every single memory, every feeling, every part of Jenkins's supposed independent life actually originated in the texter's mind. He knows Jenkins better than Jenkins knows himself.
So Jenkins has to accept it at this point.
He does. The fight just goes out of him. His mind is burning, he says. He pleads, "I beseech you, texter, torment me no more."
The argument's over. He's been exposed as a construct.
Completely. But interestingly, the texter doesn't seem to want to, erase him. No, he actually reassures Jenkins about his permanence. But it's permanence within his assigned role. He tells him, "You will always sit in the places most dare not to look."
So the darkness is still needed. The texter needs this externalized part.
It seems so. He even praises Jenkins in a weird way. Says something like, "No one does what you do better, and no one bears witness to that more than me."
That's a strange compliment. You're the best at being my repressed darkness.
Pretty much. It elevates Jenkins from just a villain to this necessary psychological component, the keeper of the uncomfortable truths.
And the texter mentions something about boundaries and free reign.
Yeah, that's a fascinating little detail. PT says Jenkins has always had some modicum of free reign within your boundaries.
Meaning the characters aren't just mindless puppets. They have some agency.
Within the limits the texter sets for their personality, yes. They're contained, but they can act within that containment. And he even hints that Jenkins isn't necessarily finished.
How so?
He suggests Jenkins might rise up again, explicitly comparing him to his historical namesake, Rasputin, implying this cycle of darkness could continue.
Okay, so Jenkins is defeated, psychologically proven to be a part of the texter. But then there's this final layer, the one that pulls the rug out from under everything.
Right. Just when you think you understand the dynamic, it shifts dramatically. Jenkins, even after being broken down, asks a perfectly logical question. Basically, okay, if I'm just in your head, how is this possible? How can he be hosting a YouTube podcast that presumably people are watching or listening to? How can he interact with the real world?
It's the paradox of the whole setup. The meta-narrative bumping against physical reality.
Exactly. And the texter's answer is, well, it's pure arrogance, but also kind of terrifying.
What does he say?
He basically dismisses the question, "My imagination knows no limits," and then adds a warning. Thinking any harder on it will break most people.
Wow. He's warning us, the audience, not to pull at that thread too hard. Don't question the mechanics of how this is happening.
Pretty much. Accept the impossible premise, or risk your own sanity. It's a way of protecting the fragile boundary between his internal world and our external one.
But then comes the real bombshell. The twist that changes everything we thought we knew about James Ray, the texter.
This is the kicker. He just casually drops this line. "There are a few doctors in a certain sanitarium that don't actually know I'm missing yet."
Wait, missing? As in escaped?
That's the implication. Suddenly, James Ray isn't just this eccentric author playing mind games, he's potentially an escaped mental patient.
So this whole conversation, this deep dive into his psyche with his own creation,
Is happening on borrowed time, during a window of unauthorized freedom.
that completely recontextualizes everything. The intensity, the weirdness,
Yeah.
It's all happening while he's potentially on the run.
It raises the stakes enormously. It's not just about creative control anymore, it's about literal physical freedom and containment.
And those doctors, the sanitarium, they represent the real world trying to impose order on his chaotic imagination.
Exactly. They're the forces of societal control, therapy, medication, maybe everything, that would try to suppress or cure the very mental state that allows him to create Jenkins in the first place if they catch him.
His multifaceted mind gets treated as illness, not art.
Right. And the threat becomes immediate and mutual for both the texter and Jenkins. PT spells it out.
What does he warn Jenkins?
If they get me, they get you. His capture means the end of Jenkins's existence as he knows it. But then he adds something crucial. And it's you they most want to get rid of.
So the doctors aren't just after James Ray, the person. They specifically want to eliminate the darkness he manifests. Rasputin Jenkins.
That's the implication. Jenkins, as the embodiment of the chaos, the darker moments, is the primary target for whatever treatment or containment the sanitarium represents. Clinical elimination, basically.
So Jenkins is trapped. Either submit to being a part of the texter's mind or face annihilation from the outside world.
A pretty stark choice. And he chooses submission. The text says his mind is burning, but he accepts his fate. He asks the texter to stop the torment. The fear of the doctors is greater than the humiliation.
He knows he needs the texter to remain free or uncontrolled for him to continue existing.
Precisely. So he prepares to retreat back into the texter's mind.
He says something about going back to the dark.
Yeah, he accepts his role to the dark, back to the places that frighten you when you sleep. He's leaving the stage of the podcast, retreating from the light, back into the internal landscape.
But before he goes, he leaves the audience, leaves us, with something. A kind of final statement.
He does, a 4-line poem or rhyme. It's quite powerful, actually. It sums up his purpose.
Can you recall it?
Let's see. In the night of dark and dreary, I haunt the land red-eyed and weary, to view the things that those deny, to understand them left to one such as I.
Wow. So he's the necessary watcher of the things we, or the texter, push away. The embodiment of denial.
That's exactly it. He exists because there are things people refuse to look at. He's the dark reflection.
And then he addresses the listener directly one last time.
Yeah, and it's deeply paradoxical given everything we've just learned about him being a prisoner of the texter's mind.
What does he say?
Thank you for visiting Yon Podcast, listener. To your own mind, don't be a prisoner.
Huh. The ultimate prisoner is telling us to be free.
It's fascinating, isn't it? Maybe the idea is that while Ray himself might be physically contained, the ideas he unleashes, the darkness he gives voice to, are meant to challenge our own mental prisons, to make us look at our own denied things.
Provoking self-examination through his own manifested darkness.
Perhaps. But then comes the final sign-off, pure menace.
The last threat.
Accompanied by that sinister laugh again. But beware, for if I get loose, it will be cooked for you, your deuce. Good day, and I hope for you a cold, dark night.
Chilling. If the creator escapes containment for good, the darkness gets unleashed on the world.
That's the warning. And then, fade to black. The connection is cut, the conversation is over. For now, anyway.
Wow, what a source.
Yeah.
Hashtag outro.
So when you boil it all down, what we've just explored isn't really a story in the traditional sense. It's more like this complex, unfolding study.
A study of what, exactly?
Authorship, definitely. But also dissociation, identity, control. How fluid identity can be when you're talking about a creator and their creations.
And how the creator seems almost defined by the characters he's trying to manage.
Exactly. And that control is fragile. It depends entirely on his own freedom from external fixes, like those doctors. It forces you, the listener, to think about where the most frightening villains might actually come from.
Maybe from the parts of ourselves we try hardest to push away or externalize.
That seems to be the implication here.
Okay, so let's recap the key takeaways for you, the learner, listening in. First, the phantom texture's method of creation. It's presented as this very specific psychological process, taking parts of his multifaceted mind, giving them personality, almost like outsourcing his own psyche.
Right. Second, the role of Rasputin Jenkins is crucial. He's not just any antagonist, he's the necessary darkness, the embodiment of the creator's darker moments, given a voice and a degree of agency within set boundaries.
And third, that final twist, the sanitarium context, it frames the entire conversation. It adds this layer of real-world stakes, life and death, and puts a ticking clock on the whole creative endeavor.
Absolutely. And that relationship between the texter and Jenkins, it really makes you question ideas about free will, doesn't it? Even within a fictional construct.
How so?
Well, if these deep, dark thoughts are given personality, given names, given some modicum of free reign, like the texter says, what does that imply about the boundaries of our own minds?
Do we all have these internal Jenkinses, these containers for the stuff we deny?
It's a provocative thought. Are we the texter trying to manage them through creativity or externalization? Or are we more like the doctors, trying to suppress or eliminate those parts entirely?
Which leads us to the final thought we want to leave you with today. It builds on that sanitarium context. If the creator, James Ray, is ultimately caught, if he's contained by those doctors, by the walls, by medication, what happens then?
Does the imagination just switch off? Does the darkness represented by Rasputin Jenkins simply cease to exist?
Or does it just go dormant?
Yeah.
Waiting inside the creator's mind. Suppressed, but maybe not destroyed. Patiently waiting for another chance, another escape, another sit down to burst back out.
Does containment truly end creation or just pause it?
Something to think about. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.
We'll see you next time.